I got the invitation to my sister's wedding on one of those thick cards that feels expensive just touching it. Gold lettering, fancy envelope. My first thought, maybe they were trying to make things right. My name's Calvin Anderson. I'm 51. I live in Dayton, Ohio. Elaine's my only sibling. She used to be my best friend. At least, that's how it felt when we were kids, back when things were simple. Somewhere between graduation and our 20s, something shifted. I'd call, she'd say she was busy. Birthdays, holidays, random weekend dinners. I'd see the group photos on Facebook afterward. Never got an invite. Never even got a heads up. I told myself they just forgot. People get busy, right? Then last year, they skipped my 50th birthday. Not a single call, nothing but a dry, happy birthday text from Mom. No punctuation, no emoji, just 3 flat words. Only one person kept checking in. Uncle Ray, Vietnam vet, couple screws loose, but sharp as hell when it counts. He'd call me every few weeks like clockwork. Ask how work was, if I was eating right, if I needed anything. You doing all right, Cal? That was always how he opened. So when that invite showed up out of nowhere, I let myself believe something had changed. I took a personal day at work, dropped a few hundred on a charcoal suit that actually fit, spent way too long picking out a wedding gift, ended up going with a silver watch I had engraved. To new beginnings. Love, Cal. I even left a day early just so I could swing by Uncle Ray's and show him the gift. Something told me he'd get a kick out of it. When I got to his place, the mood felt off. Ray looked pale, like something had gut-punched him before I even got through the door. "You all right?" I asked. He didn't answer, just motioned to the kitchen. "Coffee?" "Yeah, sure." I followed him in, set the watch box on the table, and spotted a photo album half open on the coffee table. Out of habit, I flipped it open while he was pouring the coffee. My heart sank. Wedding pictures. Elaine in white. Brett with that smug frat boy face. People smiling, dancing, posing with champagne. It had already happened. Ray, what the hell is this? He wouldn't meet my eyes, just stared at the floor. "They gave you the wrong date, Cal." My stomach nodded. "On purpose?" He finally looked up. "Yeah." I stood there in silence, gripping the back of a kitchen chair like it was the only thing holding me up. All those years of being sidelined. Every time I told myself it wasn't personal, that maybe I was just overthinking it, it all hit me at once like a punch to the ribs. "I need to see them," I said, already moving for the door. Ray followed, put a hand on my shoulder. "Son, I'll go with you." I shook him off. "No, I need to hear it from them." He gave a slow nod. "Whatever happens, Cal, I got your back." I always have. I pulled into their driveway, still gripping the steering wheel like I could crush it. Their car was there. So was Elaine's. Lights on in the living room, laughter leaking out through the open window. I walked right in, no knocking, no hesitation. They were all there, Mom, Dad, Elaine, and Brett, sprawled across the couches, flipping through a photo album like it was just another Sunday afternoon. The moment they saw me, the room snapped silent. Brett froze mid-laugh. Elaine's face dropped like she'd seen a ghost. "Calvin?" Mom blinked, like I was trespassing in my own goddamn family. "I was at Ray's," I said. He showed me the album. Silence. Thick and heavy. Nobody moved. Elaine shifted in her seat, glanced at Brett, then looked right at me. "It wasn't an accident, was it?" I asked. She crossed her arms. "No, it wasn't." I stared at her. My sister. The kid who used to sneak Pop-Tarts into my room and make forts out of couch cushions. "Why?" She didn't flinch. "Because I didn't want you there." I waited for a real answer. Something human. "You're weird, Cal. You make people uncomfortable. You don't fit." "Fit into what?" "Into the family," she said, like I should have known. I laughed once, sharp and dry. "You mean the family that's been pretending I don't exist?" Elaine didn't respond. She just stared like she was waiting for me to leave. My dad hadn't said a word. He looked everywhere but at me. Out the window, at the TV, at the floor. Useless, spineless. Mom cleared her throat. "You've always been distant, Calvin. Hard to connect with. We didn't want tension on her big day." "So you lied to me?" "We didn't lie," Mom said, twisting her hands together. "We just kept it simple. By sending me a fake date," Elaine jumped in. "We thought you'd get the hint." I took a step forward. "You wanted to humiliate me." "No," Elaine said. "We just didn't want a scene." "Well, congrats," I said. "This is your scene." Brett finally spoke. "Look, man." I cut him off. "Don't. You don't know me." His mouth snapped shut. I looked at Dad. Still nothing. Just sitting there, staring at his hands like they might save him. You gonna say something? He blinked. We didn't know how to tell you. You didn't try. My voice was low, steady, but inside, it felt like a pressure cooker ready to blow. I'd spent years making excuses for them, telling myself maybe I was overreacting, maybe they were just busy, maybe I was being too sensitive. Screw that. You could have said something, any of you. A text, a call, something. Elaine stood. You make everything about you. I shook my head. No, you just can't stand that I exist outside your perfect little picture. I scanned the room one more time. These people weren't strangers. That would have been easier. They were my family, blood, and they chose this. I nodded once. Okay. Then I turned and walked out. I didn't slam the door, didn't shout, I just left. By the time I hit the sidewalk, my hands were shaking. I pulled out my phone and called Uncle Ray. He answered on the second ring. Yeah, I saw them. He didn't ask what happened, didn't need to. He waited a second, then said, You good? I stared at the sky. Gray, cold, still. I will be, I told him, and I meant it. I got home and didn't bother turning on the lights. Just walked straight to the kitchen, pulled out the bottle of Jameson, and poured 2 fingers into a glass. Sat at the table and stared at the wall. I'd never asked for much. I was quiet, yeah, not the life of the party, but I was steady. I showed up when it counted. I helped where I could. I gave more than they ever knew. They didn't know that I'd been covering their property taxes for the last 3 years. Kept the county off their backs while they kept pretending I didn't exist. They didn't know the anonymous grant that paid for their roof repairs 2 winters ago came from my account. I filled out the fake paperwork myself. I even printed a logo to make it look real, just so they wouldn't feel like they owed me. I thought if I kept showing up like that, they'd see me, invite me back in. Turns out they liked it better when I stayed invisible and paid the bills. Screw that. I picked up the phone and called Brenda Cortez. She picked up after 2 rings. Cal, I'm ready. She didn't need to ask for details. I'd told her pieces of it before. She knew the history, knew the weight behind this call. You want to go scorched earth? Burn it to the ground. All right, she said. Tell me everything. I laid it out. Everything they'd done. Everything I'd paid. Every time they shut me out and smiled like nothing was missing. I told her about the fake wedding invite. The moment Elaine looked me in the face and said I didn't belong, Brenda didn't interrupt. She just listened. When I finished, she said, You want to cut them off officially? All of them, I said. No more contact, no more money. I'm done playing the good son. Okay, she said. Let's get to work. Over the next 2 weeks, we pulled every string tight. Brenda drafted the paperwork. She shut down the auto payments. We filed formal notices through her office, cutting financial ties and locking things down legally. I had her send a letter through certified mail, letting them know that, as of now, all support was terminated. Then we handled the big one. They'd forgotten something crucial. A decade ago, when they were about to lose the house, I paid off the mortgage. Quietly, no announcement, no demands. I just did it. Brenda pulled up the documents and confirmed what I already knew. The title was in my name. They didn't even remember signing over the deed. I was 39 then, and they were desperate. I told them I'd help. They handed it over like it was nothing, just to make the foreclosure notice go away. Now it was mine. All of it. Brenda leaned back in her chair during our meeting and said, You're legally within your rights to evict them. I stared at the papers. My signature. Their signatures. Everything above board. Then let's do it, I said. She didn't blink. I'll draft the notice. It wasn't about payback. I wasn't trying to hurt them, but I'd given enough. I'd bent over backward for a family that wouldn't even tell me what day my sister was getting married. Now I was standing up straight. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Brenda filed the papers on a Tuesday. By Thursday morning, we were standing on my parents' porch with a county officer beside us. The air felt heavy, like a storm was waiting to drop. I didn't hesitate. I knocked once, firm. Dad opened the door, half-dressed, coffee mug in hand. When he saw me, his face drained. Calvin, this is Brenda, I said. She's my lawyer. You're being served. Brenda handed him the envelope. He took it with a shaking hand, eyes darting over the county seal on the front. What's this? He asked, voice already cracking. Eviction notice, Brenda said flatly. 30 days. Mom came to the door in her robe. Her eyes went wide when she saw the uniformed officer. What the hell is this? Legal notice, I said. This house is mine. I let you stay here. That ends now. She stepped forward, eyes sharp. You can't do this. We raised you. No, I said. You pushed me out. Now you're seeing the cost. Dad looked down at the paper. We didn't know. We thought You didn't think, I cut him off. You assumed I'd keep paying, keep showing up, keep pretending like I still had a place here. You assumed wrong. Mom's voice cracked. What are we supposed to do? Talk to Elaine, I said. Maybe she'll let you stay with her. Her face twisted, disgust crawling across it. You're doing this out of spite. No, I said, keeping my tone even. I'm doing this out of clarity. You made it clear I'm not part of this family, so I'm acting like it. For a second, no one spoke, just the sound of wind pushing through the dead oak in their yard. Mom's voice went soft. You can't really mean this. I do. You're throwing your parents out? I'm ending a debt that should have never existed. Dad looked up at me then. His eyes were red, but not from tears. More like shame finally found its way in. We didn't mean to hurt you, Cal. I laughed once, short and dry. You think intent matters now? Brenda stayed silent beside me, professional, unreadable. The officer shifted his stance, uncomfortable. Mom's hand started to shake. Please, she said. We've got nowhere else to go. That's not my problem anymore. She took a step forward. You can't just erase family. I'm not erasing anything, I said. You did that yourselves when you sent me that fake invitation? Her jaw tightened, like she wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. I nodded toward the papers still hanging in Dad's hand. You've got 30 days. Use them. Dad opened his mouth. Cal, I cut him off again. Don't. Not unless it's to thank me for letting you live here this long. Brenda tapped her pen against her clipboard. We're done here. I turned to leave. My boots hit the porch steps hard, one after another. Gravel crunched under my feet as I walked toward the car. Behind me, Dad's voice broke through the quiet. I'm sorry. I stopped but didn't turn around. You had 20 years to say that, I said. Now you've got 30 days to pack. I got in the car, started the engine, and didn't look back. Through the rearview mirror, I caught one last glimpse of them standing in the doorway. Mom clutching her robe, Dad holding that envelope like it was burning through his hand. Brenda adjusted her glasses. You okay? I'm fine. You sure? Yeah, I said. They made this bed. I'm just helping them lie in it. As we pulled away, I glanced at the house, my house, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. Not happiness, not relief. Just the solid, steady feeling of finally being the one holding the pen. A month went by. Quiet. No calls, no drama. They left without a fight, just like the papers said. I had a buyer lined up for the house before the locks even changed. The sale went through fast. Clean, simple, cash. I figured that was the end of it. Then one Tuesday morning, just after I got back from grabbing a coffee, reception called my office line. There's a Mr. and Mrs. Anderson here asking to see you. They said it's urgent. My stomach dropped. I didn't say anything for a second. Did they say what it's about? They didn't. Should I call security? No, I said. I'll come down. I took the elevator to the lobby, heart pounding for no good reason. When the doors opened, I spotted them immediately. They looked different. Mom was sitting on the edge of a waiting bench, hands clutched together, like she was cold. Dad was standing awkwardly beside her, holding a beat-up baseball cap in his hands. His jeans were frayed at the knees, his coat was too thin for the weather, and his shoes, I noticed them right away, were splitting at the soles. They looked small, smaller than I'd ever seen them. Mom stood up first. Calvin, I kept my distance. You shouldn't be here. We're not inside your office, Dad said quietly. We just wanted to talk. Say it through your lawyer. We don't have one, he said. We don't have anything left. I stayed quiet, let the silence stretch. He cleared his throat. Elaine wouldn't take us in. Brett walked out on her a week after the wedding, took his stuff and bailed. She says she can't help. I waited. We've been bouncing around since the eviction, he said. Friends, couches, then a motel off Route 7. Mom stepped forward, her voice shaking. We've got a week before we're out on the street. Not my problem, I said flat. You've always been the good one, she said. You've always taken care of us. I nodded once. That's over now. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Please, she whispered. Just a little help. One more time. That's all we're asking. I looked at them both. My father, once proud, now broken. My mother, who used to turn her back when I needed her most, now staring at me like I was her last chance. And maybe I was, but that didn't mean I owed them anything. I kept my voice even. You treated me like a burden for years. Now, I'm free. Dad looked down at the floor. Mom opened her mouth to say something, but I didn't wait. I turned around and walked, pushed through the glass doors, back into the building, into the elevator, into silence. My hands were steady. My heartbeat wasn't racing anymore. Some part of me thought maybe I'd feel guilty after, that maybe I'd look back or change my mind. but I didn't. I didn't feel relief or revenge or satisfaction. I just felt clear. About 6 weeks later, a letter showed up in my mailbox. Handwritten, no return address, but I recognized the handwriting right away. Elaine. I stood there for a minute before opening it. Part of me expected more venom, another slap in the face, but it wasn't that. She said Brett had changed. Said he started drinking after the wedding, quit his job, got mean. Her words, not mine. He's not the man I thought he was, she wrote. He turns cold for no reason, slams doors, yells. I'm filing for divorce. I read it twice, not because it hurt, just because it didn't. I shouldn't have followed him in shutting you out, she wrote near the end. I see that now. I folded the letter and dropped it in the drawer next to my kitchen sink. Never wrote back. I wasn't angry, just tired. Bone deep. A week later, I drove past her old apartment after a meeting on that side of town. Not on purpose, just the way traffic flowed. The windows were dark. Mailbox stuffed to the point the door hung open. I didn't knock, just kept driving. Whatever was happening in her life now wasn't mine to fix. Not anymore. Things on my end were steady. Work picked up hard after the campaign results came in. I got a call from the VP 2 days later, offering me the senior campaign manager position. Better office, better salary, real authority. I took it without hesitation. All that time I used to pour into my family, checking in, showing up, hoping for scraps. I shifted it into strategy meetings, into client calls, into nailing every damn deadline. I showed them I was worth something, not because I needed their approval, but because I finally believed it myself. And it paid off, not just in money, but in space, peace. Ray and I started doing weekend fishing trips again. Used to be once or twice a year. Now it was every Saturday morning, like clockwork. We'd hit a little spot out by Caesar Creek. Quiet, still, no one around. He'd bring gas station sandwiches. I'd bring coffee in a thermos that always leaked. We barely talked some days. Just cast our lines and let the quiet do the work. One morning, he looked over at me and said, "You're not holding your shoulders so high anymore." I didn't answer, just smiled and reeled in a bass that broke the line at the last second. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was just silence. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't filling it with excuses or guilt or some desperate hope that maybe next time they'd remember I mattered. I wasn't chasing anything. I was just living. It started with one envelope, no return address, my name written in shaky handwriting. I knew it was from him before I opened it. Dad. The first letter was what I expected. Pleading, messy, said he was sorry, said they were struggling, said he didn't know how things got so bad. I read it once and tossed it in the drawer with Elaine's. 2 weeks later, another one showed up. A little shorter, less begging. He said he'd been looking for work, trying to keep busy. Said mom was picking up shifts at a care home in the evenings. Third letter came with an update. He got a job stocking shelves at a grocery store. Part-time, late shift. He said he was tired a lot now, but in a good way. Said it felt right, earning instead of expecting. The fourth letter was the one that made me stop moving. It was snowing that morning. I had the window cracked just a little, just enough to let the cold mix with the heat from the vent. Coffee in one hand, envelope in the other. His handwriting was a little more steady this time. He wrote, "I was a coward. I watched them ice you out and I said nothing. That's on me. I wish I could undo it all, but I can't. I just want to be better with what time I've got left." I didn't cry, didn't smile either. I just stood there in the quiet, snow drifting sideways across the sky, letter in my hand. I folded it up slow and slipped it into the drawer. Ray called that night. "Your dad's been writing me too," he said. "He's not asking for anything, just talking." I leaned back in my chair. "He different?" "He's trying," Ray said. "Owns it now. Doesn't deflect. Doesn't blame your mom or Elaine. Says it straight." I didn't say anything right away. "You don't have to do anything," Ray added. "I'm not calling to sway you." "I'm not ready," I told him. He didn't argue, just said, "Then don't be. You earned the right to take your time." I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "Thanks. Anytime," he said. "That's what I'm here for." After we hung up, I sat for a while. No music, no TV. Just the furnace humming low in the walls. I didn't feel anger anymore. Not the kind that burns. Just something quieter, heavier. I wasn't sure what to do with it. But for once, I didn't feel rushed to figure it out. Let him write. Let time do what it does. And if something ever came from it, fine. If not, I was still okay. By December, everything had finally quieted down. Not just around me, but inside me. No more waiting on a call that wasn't coming. No more bending myself into someone else's idea of family. I wasn't chasing their approval anymore. Didn't need it. I had peace. And for once, I knew it was mine. Then the last letter came. Same handwriting, same plain envelope, no return address. I opened it in the kitchen, middle of a slow Sunday, coffee mug half full and snow tapping soft against the windows. This one was different. Dad didn't ask for anything. He didn't make excuses, just wrote a few lines. Thank you for the chance to be better, even if you never answer. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know I see it now. All of it. I read it twice, then folded it clean and slid it into the drawer with the others. I didn't reply. Not yet. That night, I stood by the living room window, watching the city lights blink on in the distance. My apartment was warm, quiet. Ray was coming over soon. I had steaks thawing on the counter and a six-pack in the fridge. I felt steady, solid, like I was finally standing in my own life. Everything I had now, I built it, every inch, and no one could take it from me again. Maybe someday I'll write him back, maybe not. If I do, it'll be because I choose to, not because I'm guilted into it, not because anyone tells me I should. Do you think Calvin made the right call walking away, even after the apology? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more.